Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Untitled Chat. Austin Zespin, Cookie Monster of Failure host for this year's 2021 Nurburgring 24-hour entry list episode. And joining me, as always, with specifically the Nurburgring 24 hours entry list episode, Kris Washer, giving us the scoop on everything obscure about this amazing race. Kris, welcome, my friend. It's end of May, early June, as now things feel more normal. And we have a 24-hour race in the green hell of Nurburgring. I'm extraordinarily excited for this, with some fans in the stands too. Kris, how are you feeling?
It's going to be a very, very awesome event. It seems like it's been a tradition for the past 3 years now that me and Cookie do the Nurburgring 24 podcast, and I think every year we get better. Interestingly enough, this is going to be the third 24-hour race in 3 weeks. We had the 24 hours of Fuji 2 weeks ago for Super Taiko, which I believe Nissan won. Then we had last week the 24 hours of Silverstone with the Citroen C1s. And then after Nürburgring, next week, we get the 24 hours of Le Mans for the bikes. So very, very busy 4 weekends if you're a big endurance racing fan. But we got to focus on Nürburgring now. That's going to be coming up this weekend. And with fans in attendance, it's going to be awesome to see them back at the track. I think they were admitted last year with very limited amount of fans allowed. 10,000 spectators is the number for this year, along with camping for the first time since the pandemic along Molenbach. So everything's pretty much concentrated around the Grand Prix track. And just like last year, the very noticeable difference of the light, how much light you had on the Nordschleife itself. So it's going to be very dark on the back end this year. And with rain coming along with this weekend, that could pose some challenges that I'm sure we're going to talk about later on.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a unique aspect too with this because there's a hole in the calendar in a couple weeks where usually we would be going to France for Le Mans, and that's being pushed back a couple months. That really, in the endurance world, at least, especially in the EU and American markets, like this is the biggest event, for the next couple months, and they're really owning the spotlight. Would you say, I guess, with the entry list, as well as just how potentially competitive and exciting this race can be. And you don't have to kind of have that stifled any much by people paying attention to Le Mans a little bit more. Like this is going to kind of capture a lot of attention, especially if we have rain and some weather, which are warranted. So I mean, again, this is I think it's just endurance racing in general. Obviously, we'll get a bunch of us pretty amped for it, but I think the Nürburgring 24 is always just so special. And just watching some of the support races leading up to it, it always seems to deliver on excitement, even if it's just a support race for the 24-hour race. And it always just seems to deliver something crazy or, again, obscure, just something you've never heard of before. And we have some old faces returning, too, this year, as well as some kind of new teams and new kind of front-runner leaders potentially to take overall victory. So, this is, we're going to try to do all 125 entries and try to give as much of an explanation as we possibly can for some of the classes or drivers or teams. But yeah, we're not going to know everybody, and I'm sure we're going to get a couple things wrong. So that's where you guys get to inform us and let us know what the hell we missed. And, I don't know. Anything else that you're thinking about just in a lead-in before we start the century list, Kris, or are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get started. The important things about the coverage and how to watch, that'll be all towards the end. We'll make you suffer through 125 cars before we get to tell you how to watch the event. So endure the punishment that is 125 cars and me and Cookie not knowing about half of them.
And no scrolling forward. We're going to do everything, all the classes together. So just the entry list, their number is going to pretty much denote when we're going to talk about them. So that might be a little bit of a help too if you're dying to hear your favorite team of the Nurburgring 24's entry list called out and us completely butcher everybody and everything about it. That might help a little bit there as well. But yeah, we have quite a few categories as usual with this. I mean, it's got to be over 20, almost 25 or something like that, I believe. Different classes. But basically the dogs of the show, competing for overall honors are, pretty much coming out of the SP9 and SPX categories. Both of them pretty much are to full GT3 spec. SPX is kind of slightly different and altered, but is essentially the same performance window and delta as a GT3 category, SRO GT3 category, which the SP9 class pretty much encompasses. So, yeah, without further ado, let's start the entry list. And starting the entry list, we were going to start with Row Racing and their BMW M6 GT3, piloting. The number one machine is Nicky Katzberg, John Edwards, Philip Bang, and Nick Yaloli.
Yep, they're doing the old open wheeler / dirt bike thing where if you won last year, you get the number one plate, so to speak. So this is your defending champions. All the drivers apart from John Edwards, you couldn't make it out last year. Alexander Sims was the guy in the car for Rover Racing last year. So no no Alexander Sims, at least in this car. But this is your defending champion, automatically a one to watch. I believe BMWs were about, I want to say, a second or a very close second to the fastest manufacturer on the Nurburgring throughout all three races that happened so far. So this is definitely going to be an entry to watch, and we'll see it come qualifying time when this car comes out.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before the podcast started, just kind of who were kind of going to put the screws a little bit to the fastest manufacturer, and I will definitely both agree with that. They've been the one that we're not talking about yet, has been really, really strong. I would say BMW right up there. Obviously, Audi would too, but BMW's got a way sort of figuring this thing out again. And trying to end a little bit of the streaks that Porsche and Audi have been doing. So, and Row Racing is a fantastic outfit anyway, so you can't really bet against them. Speaking of Audi, the number 2 entry is the number 2 SP9 category, the Audi Sport Team Car Collection. It's the R8. Christopher Haas, Nico Mueller, Patrick Niederhauser, and Marcus Winkelhock piloting this one. How are you feeling with these chances on the number 2, Chris?
I'm gonna say it. I don't think this is the strongest Audi lineup, and that's quite a big statement because this is a very strong lineup for Audi here. We have Team Car Collection, which if you've been following Creventic, the 24-hour H series, they're normally there. They're dipping their toes a little bit in the pro racing sector, and with a team like Car Collection, people may think, since if they heard Creventic, that there's just going to be an AM team, but if this says Audi Sport in the front of that team name, that's a factory. That's basically a factory lineup. So this is going to be another one to watch for. I think pretty much most of these lineups in SP9 are going to be ones to watch out for, apart from a few. We really can't tell who's going to break apart, break away, who's not going to be in the hunt for the race, so to say, until we really get times for qualifying. And even then, with the wet conditions that we're potentially going to experience this weekend, we might not even get like an accurate rundown of what the race is supposed to be like until a couple hours in. So this is going to be a very interesting thing to look forward to.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And we'll see how the Audi pace is as well. They were able to at least get fourth in the qualifying race, or I believe it was I believe it. They did get fourth in the qualifying race. So trying to build something off of here until we get to qualifying, especially for Audi. So the number 3 car, Porsche 911 GT3R, Rutronic Racing's Romain Dumas, Julian Andlauer, Tobias Mueller, and Tristan Vidas piloting that. First of the Porsches, Chris, any thoughts?
Interesting. Now it looks to me, Romain Dumas and Julian Andlauer, a Porsche Super Cup graduate, basically, been very, very good. And then, of course, Romain Dumas, who needs no explanation. I'm looking at Tristan Vidas, though, because that's a relatively new name I've come across here in the sports car scene. Let's just take a look at some of his accolades. He placed third in 2013 in the French Formula 4 Championship. It's been a while since he raced a single seater. He's been in sports cars ever since. He actually won the 24 Hours of Nurburgring, I believe, twice. 3 times in the lower classes. He won in Cup 5. He won in the SP10, and he won in SP8T. So, and that's 3 years in a row that he's won the Nurburgring 24 in class. Quite astonishing. I don't think it's going to be 4 in a row for him. He's competing with some tough talent, but that's just one of the notable things I've looked up when I heard about this Tristan Vitas kid. I think he's going to be a very good sports car driver. That we're going to be hearing his name probably a lot. This Estonian kid.
Yeah, and it's a Porsche, so it should do pretty well. However, yeah, there's definitely there's some competition with other stables in the Porsche factory effort, pretty much pseudo factory effort. We'll see out of them. But yeah, it's a pretty good lineup as well. I mean, again, there's going to be something like that. How quickly will we say stacked? Not in review right now, but actually when we're talking about this, when it comes to SP9 driver lineups, because they're all just brimming with talent. So number 4, first. Go ahead.
I want to add last thing. Retronic Racing, I believe they're relatively new to the Porsche. They used to be an Audi team. Yes. I believe they raced ADAC GT Masters, obviously, with the Audi. I can't remember if they raced Audi or Porsche. Because they've been doing some Creventic races as well. I believe most recently the 12 Hours of Hockenheim. So they've been getting some experience in. It's going to be interesting to see. I'll have to look it up to see if this is their first year with the Porsche. If it is, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the new car, see what information they get from the other Porsche teams.
I believe it's first year with the Porsche. They've been in that Audi for a while, as far as I can tell. Everything else is pretty recent from their Porsche pictures that I can find. Anyway, switching back to the entry list here, number 4, it's a Mercedes AMG. It's our first Mercedes talking about. Mercedes AMG Team HRT, Adam Christodoulou, Mauro Engel, of course, Manuel Metzger, and Lucas Stoltz. That is a stout Mercedes driver lineup for the number 4.
Whew. And I believe that's either very close to the exact same livery that this car ran at the 24 Hours of Dubai. Potentially the same drivers. I'll have to look that up. But definitely a very strong lineup with the Halpta Racing team. Effectively pretty much Black Falcon. If they haven't shut down their GT3 operations, or at least they suspended them. Hopefully they come back soon. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and it's in that wonderful Bilstein yellow and blue. Yeah. We had liveries like that with the Audis. I believe maybe Aston Martin here in the past. It's wonderful seeing that scheme. I think that screams Nurburgring to me.
Yeah, especially that baby blue just makes it pop really, really well. And hopefully that car, I think we'll be seeing a lot of TV time with that. That'll be up front or near the front for most of the race, I think. So, switching to the next car on our entry list here, number 5, another Audi R8 LMS by Phoenix Racing. Driver lineup for this SP9 class entry is Vincent Kolb, Jan-Erik Sluten, and Max Hofer. Finally, Dennis Marshall, rounding out that 4 driver lineup for the number 5.
Yeah, and it's in that wonderful. It's called Phoenix Racing, but effectively it's I believe it's Ring Police Iron Force or Iron Ring.
Ring Police Iron Force Racing.
Yep, that's it. Because Jan-Erik Sluten is in the car. He's basically the money man. Anytime he's racing, he has that scheme on the car because he races Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, and he has that livery on the new Porsche Cup cars that they have rolling around. Excellent livery. I think it at least competes with Best in Show if we're talking about car paint schemes here. And not to mention that you have Dennis Marshall, who races ADAC GT Masters for Audi, very experienced in these type of cars. Max Hofer, I want to say he raced Mercedes before. Audis might be a new thing to him. Interesting to see how he does. And then Vincent Kolb, 26 years old. Basically, he might be a pay driver. I do not know, but he's not. As far as I'm concerned, he has no wins, at least in the past couple of years. So I think this is going to be one of the weaker Audi lineups, but going to be a fan favorite just on that paint scheme alone.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of an art car-esque kind of paint scheme, especially with the textures that they have in the white spaces, with the pattern that they've got with it. It looks really cool. So, yeah, maybe that'll add a couple extra miles an hour speed to their top speed. Maybe We'll see. We'll see. But next on the entry list, we have another Team HRT Mercedes AMG entry. This one with a 4-driver lineup with Patrick Onsheimer, Nico Bastian, Mario Engel, and Hubert Hopp.
And interestingly enough, this is the first instance of double duty we've seen on the entry list right now. We have Mario Engel, who's going to be in the 4, and now in the 6. Typically, when a driver does double duty, normally one of the cars, it doesn't really have a chance to compete for a win after a 6-hour period. If it's doing well, like a 12-hour period. So they normally just do it for drive time, and then they focus on the car that's up ahead. So it's going to be interesting to see how which car that Mario focuses his energy on. Definitely, hopefully it's the 4, because I like the livery better. But then you have Patrick Assenheimer, who has won at the Nurburgring multiple times before, in Nurburgring endurance, maybe even in the qualifying race, not last year, but 2019. And then Nico Bastian, who pretty much anywhere where Mercedes is racing, he's racing them too. And it's funny, when you're on the lookout, I believe they still have the Lumarank boards where they have the first 3 letters of the driver's last name and where they are in class, or not in class, but overall in the race. You'll know if Patrick's in the car because it'll just say "ass" on the windshield. So that's a funny, notable thing about this car.
Oh man. Oh yeah, definitely agreed on that. It doesn't have the better looking livery from the HRT stable. I would definitely give that to the number 4. So hopefully tomorrow, folks.
I have to say, it looks like they're doing Mercedes F1 vibe with the Patronus color there. So
yeah.
It's like the Tox. I believe it's like the Tox Sport livery in GT World Challenge Europe.
Okay. Yeah, I like the for front downforce, the fins are kind of also painted with that sky blue. That looks pretty good either way. But yeah, gotta give it to the Bielsen livery for sure. Coming up next, both the number 7 and number 8 entries that we'll be talking about, both coming from Team Get Speed. Both of them are going to be the Mercedes AMG GT3. The number 7 is going to be piloted by Maximilian Gates, Daniel Juncadella, Raffaele Marcello, and Fabian Schiller.
Yeah, Get Speed has been they've been upping their motorsports ante because they're now in GT World Challenge Europe. Don't think they're full time. I think they're just in the Endurance Cup, but they have ran just last week a Power Card for the 1,000-kilometer race there. They had a couple of instances. I believe they had one instance of contact and spin towards the nighttime hours, but they do have a really good driver lineup. Maximilian gets a god with Mercedes. I believe Maximilian was the one who almost, maybe not cleaned house in GT World Challenge Asia when it was still running, but was very damn good at it. And he definitely knows how to wheel these type of cars around. Daniel Juncadella, he's going to be an interesting, because I believe he is Spanish, and I believe he was in Formula E like a year or 2 ago. So I think he's doing GT3s full-time now, because I don't think he's part of the Formula E grid anymore. Raffaele Marcello, the name speaks for himself. He definitely made a name for himself in the GT3 scene, winning the FIA GT World Cup at Macau, I believe, several times, or at least a couple. And then Fabian Schiller, who's used to be in the Renault Sports Cup series where they raced the RS01s. But now he's doing stuff with Get Speed, especially at the ring. They're very busy at the ring, that team. And with all the experience that they have, we might see this at the top of the grid.
Really? You think potentially something from Team Get Speed gets up there? Just thinking problems with some of the other storied, efforts?
Well, I just looked at who was driving the car with last week, who made the spins and the instances, and it's not the same drivers. So,
okay, gotcha. Yeah, well, we'll see. It's a two car outfit. I know that they were, I think they were like either 2 or 3 car Mercedes outfit last year in September for the Nurburgring 24. So, but yeah, this team has been a staple at this event for a long time, even driving, GT4s in some of the lower categories for a very long time. So, Next in their stable, number 8, following the number 7, still another Mercedes AMG, and coming from Team Get Speed. The 4 drivers for this entry is going to be Jules Gouillon, Dirk Mueller, Fabian Schiller, and Matthieu Vaxavire.
I think I like this lineup better than the 7.
Yeah.
Jules Gouillon, he was a Bentley boy until the closing of the program. Then I believe he won Bathurst in 2020, and then he is also an ADAC GT Masters champion with the Corvette. Masters of pretty much any manufacturer he touches his hands on. So I think he's definitely going to be very good in the car. Dirk Mueller, I want to say he raced the BMW M8, right? GTE?
Yes.
So he's good for him. He found work in the Mercedes GT3 after the BMW shutdown. Fabian Schiller doing double duty. Interesting enough. And then you have Vax Boy here bringing hypercar energy because I believe he is a hypercar driver for a team. I want to say Glickenhaus. I know he raced LMP2s for a while. So stepping down into a GT3, we'll see how he handles the slower speeds at the Nurburgring.
He was driving for Alpine.
Alpine. There it is.
Yep. Yeah, and pretty much identical livery to the number 7, just some accents are being orange instead of highlighter green. So, just for you livery aficionados. Yeah, this is, I'll say this is definitely right up there with the number 7, although I think I do like the number 7 lineup a little bit more. But, yeah, these are stout, man. These should be right up there. And, I mean, I feel like we'll be saying that on broken record whenever we get to another SP9 category runner. But, yeah, I mean, they've got the experience. They know what it takes to get around, especially the 24 hours, and that driver lineup is no joke, so we'll see. The third and final entry for Get Speed, at least in terms of the GT3 category, I don't think they have a 4th entry here, is the number 9 Get Speed Mercedes-AMG GT3, and with this 4-driver lineup, we're going to find Janine Schaffner, Moritz Krantz, Marcus Paltala, and Maxime Soulet.
Yeah, Maxime Soulet is the one that interests me the most. You would think he would have a quote-unquote factory ride for this race because this team, I don't believe, has factory Mercedes effort, quote-unquote. Not supposed to have factory efforts in GT3 racing, but they found a way around it. So Maxime Soulet, at least he found himself a ride. It's not like this car is going to be, at least I don't think it's going to be way back in the field in terms of the car's pace. It is quite a shame that he doesn't really have a top tier ride. Not saying this isn't top tier, I just don't see this at the front. It might be a little bit lower on the tables here because of the 2 drivers they have. Janine Schaffner, which I believe, I want to say is the AM. She's a British person but moved to America, so that's why it says Louisville in the entry list by her name. And then you have Moritz Krantz, which I rate higher. I believe he's the one, or at least one of the drivers that dominated the IMSA Prototype Challenge race at Daytona with Mueller Motorsports. So he has prototype experience. I'm not going to say he's bad. He probably has more experience at the Nurburgring than on prototypes, which I've only really seen him in prototypes. So I'm going to be interested to see how this car goes into the race and see how far it goes, because I think I'm going to mark this down on my entry list and use it as one of my cars to follow, because it's an interesting mix of drivers here.
And also, isn't the sort of semi-team owner, or at least the paying guy, he's like an astronaut now, or like he's going to be a private astronaut, I think?
Oh, yes! Yeah, he was there, he was with them last year, but he's not going to be there this year because he's going into space. Which I've heard some criticism. I was like, wow, he's not going to be at the Nurburgring? I was like, well, I mean, he's been at the Nurburgring probably like more than 10 times in his life.
I mean, he'll be over
probably only going to space once.
Yeah, right? You take those opportunities when you can at this point, right? So, yeah, just another little wrinkle. And yeah, their delivery kind of hints to that with some space Stardust kind of livery going on there, and that says Axiom Space everywhere. So yeah, so that's the stable of Get Speed in the SP9 category. We move on to the first non-SP9 category entry on this entry list, the number 10 SP3T category, Volkswagen Golf GTI TCR. And this is Max Kruse Racing, Benjamin Lechter, Andreas Gulden, Christian Gebhard, and Nick Hank.
Yeah, and Benjamin Lechter is interesting because I believe he raced in the WTCR races last year, or at least the year before that, and he won one of the races. He was the hometown boy. So that was a good, feel-good story before the Nurburgring 24 even kicked off. I'll have to look at the WTCR full-time entry list, see if he's doing double duty. I don't see why not, but this is obviously this is a TCR car, but it's not in the TCR class. So there's something different with it. Could be tires or something not the spec with the TCR regulation. And that's what's beautiful about the Nurburgring 24. You could bring in a TCR and you could modify it to an extent. It doesn't have to be, TCR regulations. You can switch tires on it. You can do whatever. So definitely interesting to see. SP3T, I want to say it's kind of like the fun class. I want to say Manta, off the top of my head, is in this class as well. We'll have to see if that's the case when we get down to it. But definitely going to be a fun class to look forward to. If you have the option to kind of like split timing based off classes on your entry on your live timing, I would definitely check out the SP3T class because it's going to be a fun one to watch.
Definitely, and my own personal driver, Golf GTI, so I gotta support my brand, my OEM. But yeah, SP3T, especially with the TCRs, they drive pretty close quarters, and were involved in a bit of a controversy in one of the previous support races. Huge crash going in the back part of the Green Hell. So yeah, we'll get to some of those entries coming up as well. I don't know, we might have some liveries as well, but involved a Hyundai TCR issue. I think you saw this, Chris, right? I think this was a race.
Hyundai. Was Hyundai complaining about BOP?
No, there was a pretty heavy contact with some not happy defensive driving beforehand. They were racing pretty hard. It was I know it was a Hyundai TCR.
Right?
Yeah, it was a qualifying race. It was like the first two, like, all right, maybe it was within the first hour or something like that, and it was pretty bad. It was a pretty big accident. But so yeah, that category is ripe for entertainment, at least for sure. Next on the entry list, we got the number 11, the back to SP9 here. It's an Audi R8 LMS, Phoenix Racing. This is probably going to be a little bit of a crowd favorite, if none other, for the final driver in this 4-driver lineup. Mikel Beretta, Frank Stippler, Kim Louise Schramm, and my favorite, Nicky Thiem. How do you feel about this entry? They did finish third in the qualifying race, I believe, last run. So not too shabby of a potential pre-race warm-up for this squad.
Yeah, I want to say they had like a penalty during the qualifying race, so they could have been scored higher than what they were placed. But a third is definitely not something to pout about. But I don't know, it could be one of the stronger Audi lineups. Now, keep in mind the qualifying race results can be kind of skewed because I believe there's a GT World Challenge race that same weekend. Can't remember if it was Magny Core. So you have your Audi, your Mercedes, pretty much Audi and your Mercedes drivers out for that race. So we'll have to see with the pro lineups and the additions of the people who are away for that GT World Challenge round. We'll see how it mixes up the qualifying order, because that'll be something I'm going to be doing probably before the green flag on Saturday, because it's just comparing the lineups from the qualifying race to what the final results of qualifying is going to be, to see where that difference is, the drivers, and see where everything shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is definitely changing. I mean, we had a couple driver entries or new driver lineups updated even a few days ago. So definitely want to almost wait till the last few days just to really sink your teeth into these specific car entries with their driver lineups to just make sure you know who's exactly in those cars. So, but yeah, moving on, we've got another SP9 category, this time a Pro-Am entry, number 12, the Lion Speed by Car Collection Audi R8 LMS. And in this entry, we've got Jean-Louis Hertenstein, Fidel Lieb, Klaus Koch, and Johannes Stengel. Definitely a Pro-Am lineup.
Definitely, but I've noticed the Jean-Louis Hertenstein, the Swiss driver, he's won the 24 Hours of Nurburgring 2 times in a row, lower class. He won in 2015 in SP6, in 2016 in SP10. I guess a part of that, he's had a drought. Is it time for him to win another Nurburgring 24? Definitely not overall, but SP9, keep in mind that I think we forgot to mention this. SP9 does have a Pro-Am category. So he could be in contention for those honors. And hopefully the live timing of the weekend can differentiate Pro-Am and the Pro lineups, because SP9 Pro-Am, especially any other Pro-Am race, the difference you see when a pro gets into a car and there's other amateurs out on track, or there's other amateurs out on track and you get a pro in the car. So hopefully it'll be easier with the live timing to follow that sort of aspect. We'll see. I think this might not be the worst Pro-Am lineup on the grid. Definitely going to be interesting to see how this car turns out.
Yeah. Not the worst, but no, yeah, it's definitely, I'm not picking this. Skies would have to part in the most, loving way for this car to get in the top 5, top 10 in SP9, I think. So, we'll see about Pro-Am honors, but, yeah, at least it's the first lineup that I definitely can go, yep, that's definitely not potentially worthy, because a few of these SP9 ones are just, like, you can make an argument for a lot of these. So, next on the list, we've got an old favorite, Dodge Viper CC GT3 car. It's in the AT category, number 13, the Fly and Help stable, with a driver lineup of Bernd Albrecht, Reinhard Schall, Dirk Riebensam, and Sebastian Asch. Sorry. I have to say that right.
Yeah, I want to say Sebastian Asch is... I want to say I recognize the name because he races the Mobile One Mercedes in the ADAC GT Masters Championship. The other 3... potentially either A, bring money to the team, or B, lower class drivers that race at the Nürburgring getting the shot. Well, not getting the shot. The AT cars, they never really seem to do well. They always seem to be having breakdowns and issues before the quarter of the race is even finished. But this is a cool car. I think it's labeled the White Angel. I think it's a completely white, or damn near almost white, Dodge Viper. It's definitely going to be a fan favorite. I want to say this is the only AT. Actually, no, I believe there's one more AT car, and I believe they're both American cars. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to. You'll definitely hear it if you're at the track. That's for sure. And it's quite a looker. These Dodge Vipers are always so good looking, and I wish they could stick around longer than they did. Especially like the later ones, in the 2010s, those things were like just the meanest looking thing ever. So, but yeah, good to see them, or at least good to see some American sort of muscle sports car on the Green Hell. So, next coming up, SP9 category, entry number 14, the stable Hella Pagide Racing 1. It's a Ferrari this time, 488 GT3. With a driver lineup of Christian Kohlhaas, Stefan Kohler, Mike Yeager, and Norbert Schneider.
Yeah, this is the first Ferrari here on the grid. This is definitely, let me take a look here. I believe Pro-Am. This is also a Pro-Am lineup.
Yep.
Yeah, they did a couple Nürburgring Endurance Series rounds, NLS. I believe they also raced in the qualifying race. Let's take a look at that. Hella Pagid, because they didn't rank high. As far as I'm concerned, I believe they are further down the order. Yeah, I'm not even going like if they raced the qualifying race. So I don't think we're gonna see too much from these guys. It's interesting because we have a Ferrari. That's cool, but they're not gonna be the strongest Ferrari on the grid.
Yeah, no, that driver lineup, no. it's just a bunch of bronze-worthy drivers, that kind of thing. There's a couple other entries here that I would definitely lean towards if we're trying to go Ferrari. But even then, yeah, Ferraris I would say is probably the weakest of the SP9 categories as far as what you could tell now. But there's definitely some way better Ferrari lineups coming up here. So, but yeah,
and especially because interesting to note that they have Goodyear tires, and I think this is a change from last year. So last year they had, and in years previous, every single car had to had Falcon tire stickers because that was the one of the the contingency sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
This year I've noticed that they don't have that. They have the stickers of the tires that they're using, which is going to be much easier to follow when you're doing the live timing. And from what I've heard, the Michelins are the go-to tire, especially
in inclement weather for sure.
Yeah, especially in the wets, and they have Goodyears. So with the forecast like we have this weekend, especially even if we get a little rain, it's not going to help them in the long run.
No, not at all. Next on the entry list, coming from Team. Oh yeah, I guess again. Audi Sport Team Phoenix, number 15, SP9 category, with Mattia Drudi. Robert Frins, Frank Stippler, and Dries Vanthoor.
Woo! What a lineup! Oh my god!
Yeah, that's fire. That's straight fire.
Mattia Drudi, they just plucked him from Audi Sport Team Italia from Italian GT, he probably won races over there. Don't watch enough Italian GT to know, but definitely the other three drivers, definitely. This is my F1 pick. This is my fantasy WEC pick right off the gate. Solid, locked in. Throw away the key. This car, I'm gonna call it, will win the Nurburgring 24.
Ooh, okay. It's hard to say no, just with that lineup in general. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and then Mattia just also doing pretty good work in Formula E as well. So it's hard to really go against this one in terms of just the driver lineup. It's just intense, It'll definitely be up there, compete against the Porsche fleet, and depending on BOP, it could shake out real well in their favor. They've been pretty much the best of the rest almost, them and their stablemate in the number 11. This should be a pretty good lineup. So then we'll go from strength to a Pro-Am runner in SP9, number 16, the CP Racing entry. I think it's the US-based entry, actually, which is interesting.
Yep.
Shane Lewis, Joe Foster, Charles Espinob, and Charles Putman in this car. Go Shane Lewis, go. Friend of Turn 10 down Sebring, actually. So he's done a bunch of racing. Same with the other guys as well.
Yeah, Shane Lewis does a bunch of Trans Am stuff here in the States, even goes overseas pre-pandemic and raced Trans Ams, the TA2 cars over there. And then Joe Foster, I believe the other three, they're kind of old Grand Am guys. They definitely raced in the GT category when it was called Grand Am back in the day, when were lower, I don't want to say lower tier drivers, but these guys aren't exactly at the top of the pillar. But they've been racing Creventic a lot. They've been pretty much full time in the 24-hour series for the past 2 or 3 years. I believe they even won overall, one race, or at least one in class. They have been winning races. This is their second or third time at the Nurburgring. They just started this year, so I don't see them being too competitive as the other teams that are in the Pro-Am category. The Get Speed car with Maxime Soule. I think that's going to be my top pick for that class. So these guys have some stiff competition, definitely for their first year at the Nurburgring, and we'll see how this turns out for this American crew.
Heck yeah, and both of us Americans, can't help but support and throw a little bit of weight behind them. But it should shake out to a decent Pro-Am fight for them. But not looking at anything overall with me either, obviously, with that lineup. So following them, we've got the number 18 SP9 category Porsche 911 GT3R. This is stabled by KCMG Racing. Dabbled in this quite a bit. I think they've been in Porsches before, correct? Or is this the first time of Porsches for them? I can't remember. But before you answer that, let me get to the 4 driver lineups here. Alexandre Imperatore, Josh Bourdon, Eduardo Liberati, and Marco Holzer.
Yeah, they've been in Porsches for at least the last couple of years now because of the Nissan GT3 international things. Not doing too well at the moment, if you haven't noticed. But so they've been doing at least Porsche in, I want to say, GT World Challenge Europe, if not full time, or at least Spa 24. And then obviously they've been pretty active at the ring, doing a lot of NLS races. Now it's a Porsche, so it hasn't been the Porsches that have been winning the races, so it might not get pegged back so hard with BOP. It's not a bad lineup. Normally these guys are quite paired together. I believe, I want to say at least 3 of the 4 drivers were paired up when they raced Nissan at the Bathurst 12 hour all those years ago. So there's the team chemistry there, which is always a plus when you do these long distance races. Everybody obviously needs to be on the same page. This will help with that. Is it going to be the best Porsche on the grid? No. I don't think it's going to I don't think it's even going to be a top 3 Porsche. Is it going to be up there? We'll see. I think it can crack top 10 because Porsches are really good around here and probably not going to get pegged back to BOP unless they do manufacturer-wide BOP measurements and changes, which in that case they're done for. But we'll see. KCMG is a fan favorite. Hopefully they do well because everybody likes a good feel-good story in KCMG. And they're a NASCAR sponsor too. They sponsored a couple of NASCAR Xfinity races, I believe, for Richard Childress Racing. Mm-hmm. We're on the fence, and if you're American, there you go. KCMG was sponsored a NASCAR before.
Pick 18. Honestly, if you're going to pick some Porsches, might as well pick some underdogs from that stable. So, but yeah, good luck to them, and we'll see how they do. Next on the lineup, it's a Pro-Am category for SP9. It's number 19, Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan GT3. All silver, if you want to go with that lineup, with Axel Jeffries, Michel De Martino, Tim Zimmerman, and Alex Fontana.
Yeah, and experiences with the Nurburgring being good, and Conrad Motorsport is 2 separate Venn diagrams, unfortunately. Normally, it'd be something wrong with the tire, or they just catch on fire. There's no in between. They haven't been doing just not been good for them. Conrad definitely doesn't have the luck. I want to say it has decent drivers. Axel Jeffries, the person from Zimbabwe, raced in Super Trofeo, had decent results. I believe he races full time in GT World Challenge Europe. Michel Di Martino, don't know too much about him or her. And Alex Fontana has been getting some experience in China GT racing recently. Also raced, I believe, the Jaguar when it was in effect for GT World Challenge. So we'll see. Everybody, it's quite a meme at some point when Conrad has a problem or catches on fire. Me personally, kind of hope the meme kind of stays dormant for a year. I would like to see Conrad get some good runs because it would be a shame if because all that repairs and fire damage and it can't be cheap. Hopefully they have a good run. If I don't think they're having money troubles, I think they have a guy funding it, but I'm hoping Conrad gets a good result.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's not a win, they get through this and have just a decent showing of it without having too many tears and sweat and blood and all that, because it's been rough for them. And the Conrad livery goes back so far too with in those Lambos. It reminds me of the GT1 days. Next on the entry list, we've got number 20. It's the first Schubert Motorsport entry, BMW M6 GT3. Great lineup here: Jesse Krohn, Jens Klingman, Steph Dusseldorf, and Alexander Sims.
Yeah, so this is where Alexander Sims is going to end up this year. Not too bad. I believe Schubert, I want to say, runs a DTM team, or at least used to. Because I've heard that name around. They probably have a ADAC GT Masters team. Jesse Krohn, pretty much a BMW factory driver. Pretty much, they just had him in Italy recently, racing in the 3 hours of Pergusa, which they had pretty much it in the bag, and they hit a tire, or it was like a chicane. You know how the inside of chicanes they have like a bundle of tires. I believe he hit that, effectively ending any chance of him winning that race. Jens Klingman, been with BMWs for quite a while. Finished third here last year, actually, at least in the pro class. Not sure about overall. Probably overall if he was in the pro class. But he's still looking for that first 24-hour race win. Just looking over his stats, no 24-hour race win at all. So we'll see if this team is going to do it. Probably not the best car to do it, because obviously we've seen Rover, and then we have probably Valkenhorst. Then you get Steph Dusseldorf, who he races the ring multiple times. He knows his way around here. He's not going to be holding this team back. So I think this is going to be the underdog with the BMW. Although delivery, I want to say it's probably a factory-based effort, just judging by that livery, because that's like a DTM livery pretty much.
Yeah.
So it might not be the underdog as I was thinking, because I just recognized the livery.
Yeah, it's got that BMW kind of like jagged edge swoop kind of thing that it usually has on the side. So just different highlighted colors for the title sponsor on it. So definitely the lineup's there for it, for sure. Yeah, next on the entry list, we've got number 22. It's a Ferrari 408 GT3 in the Pro-Am category. WTM, powered by Phoenix. With a driver lineup of George Weiss, Indy Donche, Jochen Krumbach, and Daniel Kielwitz.
Yeah, this is going to be the strongest Ferrari on the grid. Indy Donche, I believe he used to do Michelin Pilot Challenge. A couple of good results in that series. I believe didn't he had like a major incident recently because I can't remember, because Indy Donche, wasn't he out of action for a while? So this might be his first 24-hour race, or at least second or third since he's been out of it. So
I believe you are correct. He did some Master Series and then was out for 2020. But yeah, this does appear. Well, no, he's done Nurburgring 24. Excuse me, 2016 through 2019. But yeah, he was not in it in 2020.
Could be interesting to see how he fares out. Obviously, Daniel Kielwitz, I believe he was also GT Masters champion with Corvette, or at least a Corvette driver. And have Jochen Krumbach and George Weiss, which I would assume they would either A, bring money to the team, or B, they were racing. They needed a driver, and they saw good results in the lower class division. So definitely a fan favorite. I do like delivery. I believe this team is based after a newspaper. I believe Glockenspiegel is like a newspaper or magazine sort of thing. And then obviously powered by Phoenix. I don't know if it's Phoenix Racing, the one that has the Audis, but it's being supported by Phoenix, not Phoenix Racing. So we'll see if that's two completely different entities, or it's just see if the same team name.
Yeah, I don't think it's Phoenix Racing. Some of their liveries are with it are like, it doesn't have the actual Phoenix Racing logo. It's got some other kind of Phoenix thing. So not entirely sure. That might just be the title sponsor company, something like that. But we'll see. So next on the entry list for SP9 category, Huber Motorsport, number 23. It's a Porsche 911 GT3R. For driver lineup for this entry, Philip Neuffer, Stefan Aust, Nico Menzel, and Marco Seefried.
Yeah, I do want to say about this car, I think at least for the first hour, don't know who they had in the car, most likely Nico Menzel and Marco Seefried. They were like third. They were like third in the race. So this car definitely has pace. It's going to be definitely the question is going to be about the other two drivers. See how their pace is going to be. See how much back or how much slower they keep the car compared to the other pro drivers. Because with definitely Nico Menzel and Marco Seefried, this car definitely has the potential to be very quick. Hopefully we'll see some good results from this car. I believe it's a small team effort, and this is also a Pro-Am car, so they don't necessarily have to fight for overall. They have a different class win to go for. So they have different goals in mind, especially with the two AM drivers. We'll see how they race because they definitely had pace for overall win at the qualifying race.
Yeah, I would definitely say that this is like underdog Porsche entry, but again, it's Pro-Am, so it's not like you would be underdogging just from them going against the all pro lineups. So, but yeah, definitely look out for them in Pro-Am for sure. There you got the pace. SP9 Pro-Am for this next entry, number 24, Audi R8 LMS GT3. Lion Speed Bike Car Collection. This is an awesome livery too, with the little lion, and then it's got like a different color scheme livery for both sides of the car. The 4-driver lineup for this is Lorenzo Rocco del Torrepadula, Patrick Cobb, Milan Donche, and Patrick Niederhauser.
Yeah, and you could look at that lineup and definitely see who's bringing the money to the team. It's going to be the Italian name. I believe he's just looking at his name. Lots of pictures of him in suits. So yeah, Patrick Kolb, which I don't know if we mentioned it before. It sounds familiar. He might be pulling double duty. Milan Doncha, I believe there's relation to Indy Doncha, either like a brother. Then you have Patrick Niederhauser, which I believe he's going to be doing double duty as well.
Yep.
Is this car going to be the fastest Audi? No, but this car is most likely going to have an onboard because last year it did, and nobody knew why, but it's probably because the Italian, or I believe he's Swiss actually, funded the monies and said, hey, put an onboard on my car.
Yeah, hey, why not? And gets a little bit more info to the team potentially, sometimes with that live feed. And hey, if you got the money to do it, why not? More cars TV fed is fine by me. But yeah, check out that livery too. It's pretty awesome. Next on the entry list, we have the first SPX category, number 25, Space Drive Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3, piloted by Dominic Farnbacher, Darren Turner, Tim Shearbot, and Philip Ellis. You know why this is an SPX category? Is it a different engine or something like that? Something internally with this that makes it SPX category?
It's because it's using a steer-by-wire system.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And how often do you see Darren Turner in the car that's not Aston Martin?
I was going to say, yeah, is that why it's SPX? Is because literally they unplugged Darren Turner from Aston Martin IVs and plugged him into a Mercedes just for this once?
Yeah, they had to switch the fluids around. They had to change, just diets. But yeah, this is a very interesting car. I believe. Let me take a look at the results from the qualifying race, see how far back it went, because this is an SPX class car, which you know what that means? It means it's direct competition. It's the Glickenhaus. So I believe, so apart from the last few years, Glickenhaus had pretty much no competition in that SPX category. Now they do. Obviously, SPX is pretty much the category for experimentation. If it's not, if it's pretty much a GT3 but not in the regs, or if it's not homologated, they just put those there. The steer-by-wire system car did place 21st overall in the qualifying race, so it's going to be interesting. Its fastest lap was an 8-minute and 23-second lap.
All right. There's definitely pace to be found, from that stable, and definitely not going to be looking to compete overall. But, I mean, that would be a good achievement just for them to get to the end of the 24-hour race. So, it'll definitely be interesting to see if that is how much time that spends in the pit lane or just behind the wall, if anything. If there is any mechanical issues or anything else specifically with that. But, yeah, that's, like you said, it's some competition for Glickenhaus, so I can't complain there. Next on the entry list here is a Ferrari, number 26 SP9 category. Octane 126 is the team name, and 4 drivers for this team: Joran Grossman, Simon Trumer, Jonathan Hertzi, and Luca Ludwig.
Woo! This is basically this is the heartbreak team. A year or two ago. I want to say on more than one occasion where they either won or had a really good result in the Nurburgring Endurance Series race. They normally have a penalty. coming their way. Because Ferrari's winning at the Nurburgring is not common, but it's possible. Wachenspiegel did it, I believe, one time a year or two ago, I believe when it was called VLN. But this team, I believe 3 of those drivers I recognize, or at least 2 of them from Ferrari Challenge Europe. Jonathan Hershey, I want to believe he did some LMP2 work. Then Luca Ludwig, the son of Klaus Ludwig, who was basically Meister DTM before Bert Schneider came along.
Mm-hmm.
And Luca Ludwig, obviously, I believe he races maybe not the Mobile 1 Mercedes in GT Masters, but definitely a Mercedes, or at least used to, if he's racing a Ferrari here at the Nurburgring 24. So definitely a very interesting lineup. We'll see how this car goes. Octane 126. Hopefully they just do well, because they just had a bunch of heartbreaks here over the years at Nurburgring.
Yeah, and I'm pulling for Ferrari too, and that's a pretty interesting looking livery as well. So very, very plain and stable, but definitely has some potential with that driver lineup. We'll just see how they do, especially through traffic. Next on our entry list, famous team, I'll say, especially now over the States. They've done quite a few entries in the GTD category in IMSA. The number 29 Audi Sport Team Land LMS GT3 R8. And this driver lineup, Christopher Mies, Calvin van der Linde, Rene Rast, and Frederick Verveech is really good.
Yep. Yeah, this team is definitely going to be one to contend for. But if I'm going to be, if anybody knows NASCAR, I'm going to be Larry McReynolds here and follow the trends. Every time that I watched a Formula One race and had the Nurburgring 24 on in the background, Land has won it. And there's F1 this weekend at Baku. Not saying that Land's going to win, but I'll put F1 on my big TV if Land's going to win, because Land is definitely a very good team. Obviously, we know about the historical incidents in the past with IMSA, with the penalties that, depending on who you're talking to, were very controversial. And obviously Land, who actually I believe used to race Porsches here, now with Audis for the past 5 years, 6 years.
They've been there forever.
And obviously racing, at least for the past couple of years, in ADAC GT Masters. So hopefully Team Land gets a good result. At least second behind my F1 pick.
Yeah, it's a great Audi lineup. I mean, you can't find really a whole lot too much better than that outside of your early pick with the, what was it, the number 2 you went with?
The 15.
Oh, 15. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right, the 15. So, I don't know. I would almost lean to this one having the better driver lineup, but we'll see. Definitely should be, hopefully playing spoilers. Again, depending on how BOP falls with this, the next 2 entries have probably been the absolute class of the support series races and just the races leading up to Nurburgring 24 this year. Both from the Fricadelli Racing Team stable. The number 30 first, Porsche 991 to GT3R. In the SP9 category, Matthew Jaminet, Nick Tandy, Earl Bamber, and Matt Campbell. Holy sweet mother.
Not to mention that 3 of those drivers, Jaminet, Bamber, and Campbell, just won a 6-hour race a week ago at Power Card with GPX Racing, still a Porsche. So they got the win, coming right off a win and into the Nürburgring. Confidence must be really, really high. Obviously, you don't want to be kind of, let me try to say, false confidence coming into Nürburgring. Obviously, you want to be mentally prepared, but having that boost of morale, just winning, especially what's becoming a pretty big sports car race in the world, because more and more, year after year, more and more people look forward to it. Got to be interesting to see how this team, especially with qualifying, potentially in very heavy wet conditions, see how fast they go back to reality. They have Earl Bamber. No mention him. We don't need to bring up his accolades. Everybody pretty much knows. Le Mans winner, probably 24-hour race winner before, and obviously Fricadelli Racing. This would be their first Nürburgring 24 since Sabine Schmidt's passing. And obviously, Sabine was a former driver of this team, so definitely heavy hearts in that garage area.
Yeah, and echoing that sentiment, absolutely. It's definitely, you could make the argument that they're driving very spirited, kind of, especially with how performance-wise they've been just killing it in the sports series and the qualifying race. Basically, both of those cars looking extremely, extremely good during the middle and later part of the races. So, and that driver lineup is just insane. So, I would say the 30, in my opinion, has probably got the better lineup than the 31, but the 31's lineup has got Patrick Pilet, Frederick Makowicki, Maxime Martin, and Dennis Olsen. So, I mean, you could absolutely make an argument that this one it has the better driver lineup to it, but man, I mean these two cars should be up front, and I mean if it's not, then there's some they were involved in something or they had a bad break or something, because I just don't expect these to fall out of the top 10 unless they come into some problem of their own.
Well, on paper, yeah, because this 31 car did win the qualifying race, which is a 6-hour race in length. So I mean, they did a quarter of a race and did very well at it. They just need to finish the other 3 quarters. But definitely is going to see how the 31 race is. Obviously, it's 24 hours of Nurburgring, and with, like I said, it's going to sound like a broken record here, with the wet weather involved, it's almost like a lottery, pretty much, on how the results are going to shake up. Because you might encounter a slow Cup 5 car who may not know what he's doing. He might just merge directly on track. You might not have enough time to react. Bam, you crash into him. Your race is done. So we're going to see how the 30, how Frickadelli goes about, because I do not know if they ever had a overall N24 win. Potentially maybe back in the past, but as far as I'm aware, off the top of my head, I do not think they have an overall N24 win. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. They're after a strong year, after the 30 winning, I believe the first or second NLS race of the season, and then with the qualifying race, they're on paper they're the favorites to win. We'll just have to see how the BOP treats the Porsches because of them winning so much.
Yeah, and I mean they've been winning by wide margins too. I mean some of them have been relatively closer, but I mean just by the lap count for some of the rest of the SP9 category was at a lap behind even at some point too. So both of these cars are gonna, in my opinion, like I said, the BOP reliant, that they're not hit too heavily. I think these cars should be doing pretty well unless they get caught up in some accident or have some mechanical or act of God problems throughout the race. We'll see. Next up is a personal favorite of mine, and I'm sure it's going to be a crowd favorite. The first of the Falcon Motorsports Porsches. This is in the SP9 category. They're driving the 9912 GT3R Porsches. The number 33 driven by Klaus Bachler, Dirk Werner, Thomas Priening, and Lance David Arnold.
Oh yes, if you're an IMSA fan and you've missed the Falcon Tire Porsche, just watch NLS and the Nurburgring 24 hour. Every race will have at least 2 Falcon Tire Porsche GT3s. It's just amazing to see the Falcon Tire livery on Porsches and have it at least 10 times a year. Just definitely brings that sense of nostalgia back for old IMSA. Doesn't replace it, but it's nice to at least to see a resemblance to it, because it's definitely one of my favorite liveries of all time. The colors just look so good, and I believe potentially the only 2 cars that runs Falcon tires. We'll have to, as we go down the entry list, we'll have to look closely at the stickers on the cars for the pictures that they provide for us here on the entry list. But Klaus Bachler is going to be doing double duty here for the Falcon Motorsports team. Dirk Werner, obviously longtime Porsche driver. Thomas Preining, Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, probably Porsche Super Cup driver. And Preining did do a lot of winning, at least in the Deutschland Championship, so he knows his way around a Porsche. And Lance David Arnold, I want to say he's been a Porsche driver for the past couple of years, but he used to do Mercedes. I want to say he was in the Haribo Mercedes when that was running in the Nurburgring 24, but God, that could have been 4 or 5 years ago. So between that time, he's probably had some very good experience with the Porsches. Interesting enough, I'm having trouble deciding if this is going to be a top tier entry or just middle of the pack. I'm leaning towards middle of the pack because obviously we still got more Porsche entries to go, and the other ones we looked at, they're just filled with star power. It's just interesting to see, and I might as well just go over the 44 real quick.
Yeah.
With obviously Klaus Backler, Martin Raginger, who used to race Porsche Carrera Cup Asia, used to do some winning in that. Sven Mueller, and then Alessio Picorello, which Alessio Picorello is a new one for me. I think he's been at Porsches for the last 2 years now, but I believe he used to do Audis. He used to race Audis in Asia. So a manufacturer changed for him within the past couple of years. I want to say this is my first time seeing him in the Falcon Tire Porsche for the Nurburgring 24. Feel free to correct me if he was there last year, but I definitely, at least in my brain, this is his first time in a Porsche Falcon Tire car in the Nurburgring 24. So definitely going to be a fan favorite. How can you tell between these two cars if they have the same livery? Well, the front end, so basically compared to the pictures on here, the front end plates for these 33 are going to be that teal that you see on the Falcon Tire livery, and then on the 44, it's going to be red. I don't really like how they painted the aero bits red on the 44. It just looks out of place. So I'll be cheering for the 33 just on that front.
Yeah, and there's some accents on the mirrors as well as the sunscreen visor as well. It's a little red accent on the 44. So, man, I love the livery. I love the team. I hope as a sleeper pick they do extremely well. I love Falcon Motorsport. So, this episode of Endurance Chat is brought to you by The Racing Line. The Racing Line is a motorsport calendar and notification app for iPhone and iPad. It includes all major series, with more being added all the time, giving you a daily and weekly list of races so you can easily see what's coming up. All events are converted to your local time zone, so you no longer have to faff around adding or taking away hours to work out start times. Finally, it also lets you customize notifications for events, so you can choose when you're notified about a certain race series. The app is available on the iOS App Store, coming soon to Android. Just search for The Racing Line. Find out more at www.theracingline.app. Moving on to the SP10 category, the number 34 on our list, Schnitzelaum Racing. I butchered the crap out of that. Driving Mercedes-AMG GT4. 4 drivers here: Marcel Markovitz, Marek Bachmann, Reinhold Renger, and Tim Neusser.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the lower tier entries, so we won't keep you guys waiting for these. We'll just briefly explain. It's a Mercedes AMG GT4 SP10. I want to say SP10 is the strict GT4 class where you have to use. I don't think tires is going to be an issue. I don't think they have a spec tire, but it has to be spec GT4s. So I believe this is either the first or at least the second car we've seen from this class. Mm-hmm. And most of these guys, especially if these lower tier guys, they're mostly, if they raced VLN in the lower tier division, ADAC GT Masters, or some lower tier series like DMV GTC, GT4 Germany, Porsche Carrera Cup. So a lot of these names that we're not going to recognize, they mostly just raced in the German national championships. So forgive us if we forget anything notable, but most of these guys are basically going to be amateur or aspiring young German drivers racing these championships.
Yeah, and if anything, if you're looking for motivation for cheering on a GT4 category, the livery for this has a bunch of, it looks like Spam meat slices or something like that on the side of it. So get your taste buds, because this car's going somewhere, I think. But yeah, so moving on from the SP10 category, number 34, we have the number 36 in similar GT4 class category vehicle, at least. the SP8T, T denouncing the turbo, I believe. So these are not specifically hard spec GT4 cars, but this is by Black Falcon Team Techstar, with the driver lineup of Kaya Mustafa, Mehmet, and Gabriele Piana, Mike Stursberg, and Ersin Yuksan. Yuksan. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I think, interestingly enough, this team, they have a driver from Turkey. So YouTube chat is just going to be Turkish flags. And then you have Gabriele Piana, who has been in the GT3s before, even winning overall 24-hour races with Mercedes. Interesting to see that he took a step back, or if he just didn't have a ride for the GT3s, and obviously still wanted to race the Nurburgring 24. So we'll see how Gabriele Piana does, because he's definitely the notable driver in this lineup. And just to get the other SP8T car out of the way that we have, it's the Schnitzelam Racing. I believe the same cars we had the previous car ago. Jorg Weiban, Peter Posovac, Andreas Weiland, and Guido Wirtz for that Mercedes AMG GT4. Seems like the GT4 category is very popular with Mercedes, because we've really only seen Mercedes for the GT4 cars so far.
Yeah, so far, especially in the lower numbers, are inundated with Mercedes. I think they're obviously, well, the Expo is going to be there as well, and I know we've got some BMWs coming up and Aston Martins. But yeah, for right now, we're hitting nothing but Mercedes. I think a few Porsches in there too. So. But yeah, getting a lot of these out, and then the 36 and 37 are in the SP8T category, and then again that 34 is in the SP10 category. So slightly different categories, but the same, chassis essentially that they're using for GT4. Number 40 on our entry list, SP9, back to the GT3 category. 10Q Racing, Team Hauer and Zabel, in a Mercedes AMG GT3. Driver lineup with Kenneth Heyer, Thomas Jaeger, Jelmer Berman, and Dominic Baumann.
Yeah, I've never heard of this team name before. This is brand new to me for this year. Kenneth Heyer did lots of Carentic races with Hofer Racing. Won most likely a couple class wins. Thomas Jaeger, I believe there's a separate Thomas Jaeger. There's an Austrian one and there's a German one. I want to say this is the Austrian one. Due to the fact that he's racing I believe the Austrian Thomas Jaeger races the more high-tech machinery, and the German one's more amateurish. Jelmer Berman, obviously GT World Challenge Europe a lot with Mercedes, at least within the past couple of years. And then you have Dominic Baumann, who has been racing obviously as well as Berman with the Mercedes.
Yeah, they announced last year to try to start contending in the 24-hour endurance races, Spa and Nurburgring, and I guess they were founded in 2018, and so they were setting to expand in their motorsport involvement to GT3 formula with a single Mercedes AMG, and that was back in last August. I don't know if they competed last year in Nurburgring. I don't think they did, but yeah, very new team, especially in the GT3 step-up.
The German one is the high-tech guy. This is the German Thomas Jaeger. If we have another Thomas Jaeger, it's going to be an Austrian, and he's the amateurish guy, so easy to get the two mixed up.
Gotcha. Nope, thanks for correction. We did the 44, that's the Falcon Motorsports Porsche, second that stable. We'll go to the SP8 category, the number 53, Giddy Tire Motorsport by WS Racing. It's an Audi R8 LMS. This is a GT4 category runner with a driver lineup of Carrie Schreiner, Celia Martin, Pippa Mann, and Christina Nielsen.
Carrie Schreiner, I think, unfortunately, she races. Not unfortunately that she races. She races an ADAC GT Masters, and from what I've been hearing, she's not that good. That's from hearsay, obviously. Mm-hmm. Celia Martin, hometown girl from Adenau. Then you have Pippa Mann and Christina Nielsen, who are obviously the two most notable people on this driver lineup. And if it's anything like past years, it's not just an all-woman driving team; it's an all-woman pit crew. They normally get a lot of TV time. You'll see, if they're in the garage fixing something, German TV will most likely focus on them for a good couple minutes at a time, mm-hmm. because it is definitely a story that the commentators are going to be talking about. And it's not often you see an all-woman pit crew in racing. So that's the story of and obviously racing on GT tires as well, which is one of the weird tire choices that we have in this race.
Hey, look, it's plastered everywhere on that car, so might as well put it on the tires too. Staying with the SP8 category, number 54 on our entry list, Novel Racing by Toyo Tire Ring Racing. So Toyo Tire there. It's a Lexus RCF, another GT4 runner. Takamitsu Matsui, Klaus Volker, Wilhelm Verick, and Turbo Asai is the driver lineup for this entry.
Yeah, with it being a Japanese car, gotta get 2 Japanese drivers in. It seems like Takamitsu has some Toyota ties, obviously with being a Lexus. Just looking at his stats, he won not last year, but in 2019 and 2018 the SP Pro class, which that might be. He was also 2016 Super GT champion in GT300. Oh wow, look at that. So this confuses me because SP8 I thought was the pure GT4 class, and obviously the Lexus RCF is not. So we might not have a pure German GT4 class like I thought we did. It might just be lumped in.
Yeah, I'm double checking that as well just to see which one.
Okay, SP10. SP10 is the pure German, just the pure GT4 class.
Gotcha. Yeah, SP8 would have some, obviously with the RCF being not GT4 spec, it's got some minor altercations to it, and not turbo, so we know that. We'll move on. Number 58 on our entry list, SP7 category. This is a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, so SP7, pretty much you can denote that will mostly contain a GT3 Porsche Cup car. Bill Cameron, Peter Bonk, and Arno Clausen so far on this entry list.
Yep, no team name for that one, at least so far, and obviously with a day until qualifying. It will be interesting to see how Team No Name does on the results table when it comes to the end of 24 hours. Next up, we'll have the number 60 Teichmann racing car. It'll be in the Cup X category. The Cup X is basically all your KTM crossbows, and Teichmann Racing is pretty much fielding the entire grid in that class. We'll have Steven Brodmerkel, Karl-Heinz Teichmann, who I would assume brings the money to the team, or team owner, or at least friends with, or at least related to the guy. And then you have Erkin Kara Osman. All of them are Germans.
Yep. Now for the SP9 category, we've got one more entry here. Number 63, Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. And this is stabled by Hankook FFF Racing Team, with the 4-driver lineup of Marco Mappelli, Frank Pereira, Mirko Borolotti, and Giacomo Alati. When
you look at this on paper, it's a very, very strong lineup, except they're running on Hankooks. I don't know what. I think Hankook obviously footed the bill because they're obviously sponsoring the team. They even got their name on the car. But how good are the Hankooks going to be at the Nurburgring? Don't even mention the wet. How is it going to be in mixed conditions, dry conditions? Comes to that point. As far as I'm concerned, we haven't really seen a top team do well on Hankooks at the Nurburgring. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the Michelins are going to be king, because most of the drivers here, most of the teams, I'm just looking at them, it's Michelin, maybe a couple of Goodyears here and there. But so we'll see how the Hankook tires do in this situation. Obviously, I believe it's the second or third Lambo we came across. I think it's definitely gonna fare better than the Conrad car, because FFF, very, very dominant force in GT World Challenge Europe. They pretty much dominated the Circuit Power Car 1,000 kilometer race last weekend. They just got passed in the final hour by GPX, but I believe they finished second or third, at least top 10 that race. So it's a strong team. It's just how are the tires going to work for them? Because they have the drivers, they have the car. It's all about the tires. So we'll have to see when track action comes on Thursday, if they even get it on Thursday because of the torrential rain that they're going to have. how they're going to fare out. Now, next up we have is number 68 SP7 car. Cookie, we haven't seen this guy in a while.
Well, hey, and even leading up to it, he caused a little bit of an issue with the SP9 runner. I believe it was with the qualifying race. Basically coming in contact with a front runner late in the race there too. So really putting out his best Tracy Crone-ness is our man Tracy Crone. Number 68 in the SP7 category. Joining him is Niklas Johnson, Patrick Huisman, and Mario Fahnbacher in the RPM Racing Porsche 991 Cup car with that iconic, I'll just say it, iconic Krone Aviation livery. It's basically been the same livery for the last almost 20 years. And my God, that is you try to give that a wide berth if you can. I would say still, right?
Oh my God, it's so good. It's just, memes aside, it's just nice to see him back. Obviously, the pandemic probably played a huge wrench because obviously Tracy Crone, businessman first, he works to afford his lifestyle, and he probably can't afford the LMP2s and the GTEs like he did back in the day. So why not just do a Porsche Cup car? And with his antics, you'll probably see him on German TV pretty soon into the race. But we'll see. It'd be nice to see a good result from this team for a change. Because Tracy Crone, memes aside, he's probably a very nice guy. It's just so easy to make fun of it. Next up, let's get through this. Number SP7. What number? It's number 69. Mm-hmm. The funniest car in the grid. It's the number Team Clickersickeren.de Porsche Cup car for the SP7 class. Basically a website that's racing. And then they have the SP10. We're getting to the SP10s, Cookie. It's number 70. Racing by Bonk Motorsport. And Bonk Motorsport, in the past, used to race Audis and BMWs. Obviously, choosing a BMW M4 GT4 for this race. You have Michael Schrey, Michael Ferscher, Gabriel Piana doing double duty in the GT4s in two separate classes. How about that? And then you have Claudia Hurtgen.
Yeah, and the livery is not too bad either. It's almost got a little bit of that Gulf racing, but then it's got some zebra tiger stripes going on with it, which is pretty awesome. In another SP10 category, number 71, Pro Sport Racing. It's an Aston Martin Vantage GT4. Man, I love these Aston Martins, these GT4s. They just look so mean. The driver lineup for this is Guido Dumare, Maxime Dumare, and Alexander Walker, and Michael Hess.
And Pro Sport races Creventic a lot, and not a very competitive field in Creventic in the GT4 category, but I want to think definitely less than 10, probably even less than 5. They only get really a couple cars in that category, so not a lot of competition for Pro Sport to endure in. I don't know exactly how many GT4s we have here, but there's definitely a lot more GT4s overall. How many SP10s are there compared to the classes at Creventic? Probably a little bit more compared to what we've seen, and obviously big news coming from Pro Sport. I believe they just announced their entry into the 24 Hours of Sebring in November. So, Cookie, if you go, you get to see these guys.
I'll be there. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of these just smaller category or race cars just to show up and especially compete at 24 hours at Sebring. That's going to be awesome.
Cookie, is that a Supra?
By God, I think it is. Toyota Supra showing up. Number 72, Novel Racing with Toyo Tire by Ring Racing. SP10 category. Driver lineup, Tohiro Azuma, Michael Tischner, Hiko Tonyangs, I think, or Tonyangs, and Turbo Asai, I should say. Double duty for Asai as well. I think he's in another SP9 category runner as well. Or not SP9, I'm sorry, SP8?
Yep, with the Lexus. And these guys, they ran here before. I believe they ran here last year. Definitely in the Nurburgring 24 with the Supra. Probably a few NLS races as well. Maybe not in SP10. Maybe in the SP8 or SP8T before it became officially homologated for GT4, but it's not the Supra's first race around the ring. We'll see how they do. I'm actually cheering for this car for the GT4 class. I very like this. What fair like this? That's not English. I just like the Supra very much here. The livery on it looks fantastic. It kind of has like a yellow. If I remember it, it's a blue car, but has like yellow accents on the front. It's a very good looking car in my opinion, and I hope it does well.
Yeah, it's this one should definitely do pretty well, or at least just from the livery department alone. And Toyota Supra, it's a cool platform to be in, especially in the SP10 category. Walking Horse Motorsport coming up next, number 74 on the entry list here, SP10 category as well. It's BMW M4 GT4 with a driver lineup of Cameron Evans, Lance Bocelli, David Thelenius, and Charlie Postins.
Yeah, and if I believe we're going to get to the GT3 Vulcan Horse Motorsport guys pretty quickly here. I want to say it's the GT4 car is going to have the same exact livery, if not a little bit different, because it has the Total Court sponsorship, which looks very good, by the way. And we're going to see how far this car does in the intros. Cameron Evans, if you're an American, Dallas, Texas represent. Then the rest most likely raced at the Nurburgring in the past in GT4s or lower classes, or raced in the GT4 championships they have in Germany. Then we have the number 75 Cup X car with the KTM Crossbow. We have the Auto Motor Unsport True Racing car. And Neil mentioned this is the KTM Crossbow GTX. I believe this is the GT2 car. If not very close to it. The drivers are Christian Menzel, Tim Strick, Jens Drell, and Marcus Ostreich.
Yeah, and that bare carbon too. That looks fantastic. It definitely looks like GT2 spec. It's not the old Expos, that's for sure. Not GT4. Number 76, SP10 category coming up next. It's a Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. Schmickler Performance is fielding the entry, and the driver lineup is Ivan Giacomo, Mauro Calamia, Roberto Pampanani, and Kai Riemer.
Yeah, so we're finally getting to the Porsche side of the GT4 category. Most likely going to be allowed them. They're a very popular car, especially in the GT4 Europe category. So we'll see probably many more coming and in the next couple cars we line up here. Next up is number 77 in the SP9 category. We got GT3. It's the BMW Junior team. It's Daniel Harper, Max Hesse, Neil Verhagen, and Augusto Farfus. So Augusto Farfus is most likely going to be like the father figure of the team. He's going to be the guy with experience. Neil Verhagen used to be, I believe he used to be a Red Bull driver. He used to be in Formula Renault Euro Cup when that was before Alpine took it over. And Max Hesse, I want to say I've seen him race before. I just don't know where. Most probably here, or at least in ADAC GT Masters. I don't know about Daniel Harper though.
Yeah, not sure about him. Definitely know Neil Verhagen. Yeah, he was definitely Red Bull affiliated and has been doing a couple things in stateside, but not a whole lot. So, yeah, I don't have a ton of info though on Daniel Harper. Great Britain though.
Yeah, he's my age, and he's racing in a GT3 car at the Nurburgring 24.
Oh God.
Oh, I guess he raced Janetta Juniors.
Okay, Janetta Juniors, gotcha.
And yeah, he for 2020. Yep, that's right. I definitely seen him. He's been in the NLS and 24 Hours of Nurburgring, most likely last year. That's where I saw him. And he was a Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain champion in 2019.
Learning more every day. Here's the obscure part, even with SP9. But yeah, number 78. We'll continue down on this list here as we start getting into the more obscure. Still in the Porsche GT4 in that SP10 category. Allied Racing. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, Dennis Fetzer, and Luca Sandro Trefts.
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very good livery. The bright blue right in the front, switching over to the black in the back. And I think this team's going to do pretty well Obviously, GT4 at the Nurburgring, a different ecosystem like you would see GT4s everywhere else. And Allied Racing, I don't really see, at least I don't think I see them anywhere else but the Nurburgring. So they must have tons of experience here. Definitely ones to watch out for. Next up, we'll have a SP7 car, the number 80, Huber Motorsport, along doing with their GT3 program. They got a Porsche Cup car racing with Hans Wehrmann and Ulrich Berg.
Following that, it's the number 81 in the SP6 category, a BMW M3 CSL by Hofer Racing. Martin Kroll, Michael Kroll, Chantal Prince, and Gustav Engelhungringer running out that lineup.
And I hope I'm not wrong about this, but since it's the Kroll family, and Hofer Racing did do Creventic with the GT3s, with the Mercedes, especially with the older Mercedes back in the days. I want to say that's Chantal Kroll, but married, I believe. So that's interesting. So when we last saw her in a main race, I want to say, which would be Creventic most likely, she got married within that time. So if it's the person I'm thinking of, congratulations, Chantal.
Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting wrinkle as well to it, for sure. Next on the list, we have a number 86 in the SP4T category. No team name for this one, in a Porsche 718 Cayman GTS chassis. Jacek Pedice, Jan Munhauen, Pierre Alain, and Peter Kate running up that driver lineup.
The next up, we have the 87, another SP4T Porsche 718 Cayman GTS, another no-name team. Andreas Scheffitzel, Ernst Turin, and Stefan Brainer.
In the SP3T category, following 87, is the 89 Hyundai i30N by Carlson Peninsula by Tomcat. And the driver lineup for that stable, Marcus Lowe, Dan Bergolt, Andrew Engelman, and Ben Lyons.
And this is just the i30N, doesn't have TCR towards the end of the name there. So this is just going to be the regular hatchback, which is very fun to watch around. No wing, no aero bits, just the hatchback you see on the showroom floor, just racing around the Nurburgring. Should be interesting. Should be fun to watch. I think this team might have an onboard. Normally the hatchback has an onboard, unless the factory Hyundai guys brought their own hatchback, which sometimes they do. We'll see about that. We'll see if they're lower down on the entry list. Number 90 in the SP3T class. We're getting into the fun cars, guys. No-name team. Tobias Young, Antunes, it's Carlos Tavares Antunes, Francois Wales, and Jean-Philippe Imperato. And this is the Opel Astra Cup.
I love this car. Glad to see it make the entry list, and yeah, looking forward to anything Opel Astra in general. I'm a fan of. So not as much as Manta, but hey, why not? Following that, we have a SP3T Golf 7 TCR Volkswagen, number 91, powered by MSC Singzing EV. I'm ADAC. So just a sector of German ADAC.
Yep, a motorsports club.
Yep. Jens Wolf, Alexander Mueller, and Artur Gorion are the three pilots of that entry.
I have noticed that it says TCR in that car name as well. So this will be a TCR in the SP3T class, or at least a tuned down version of it. Next up, we got a big guy. We got a big contender here. It's number 98 in the SP9 category. Rover Racing in the BMW M6 GT3. Connor D. Filippi, former winner of this event with Land. Martin Tomczyk, former DTM driver. Sheldon Vanderlyn, DTM driver. And then you have Marco Wittmann, he was also former DTM champion. We forgot to mention this. I believe we still have one more pretty good BMW driver left to go. It seems like BMW is stepping up their game this year compared to previous years. Unless I'm forgetting how much BMW brings to the table every year. It seems like they majorly stepped up the ante for this year.
Yeah, as far as the driver lineups are concerned, I would say so. Amount of effort on some of these entries is pretty high, and they've spread it out too. There's a couple kind of bronze league as entries in SP9 for BMW, but they've got a lot of good stout lineups that could potentially compete overall if the cars fall their way. And yeah, it does feel like they have maybe one or two extra entries that feel really, really solid than they did previously, or at least there's an upward trajectory. So that's good to see at least. After the 98, we've got the number 100 keeping the BMW stable in full spread here in the SP9 category, BMW M6 GT3. Walking Horse Motorsport, their first entry that we've got to in the GT3 category, with the total ports kind of BMW total livery. That's kind of cool looking. I actually do like that a lot. But the entry list is not the one I would prefer out of this stable. I'll take the 101 that we'll talk about just after this. The 100 has an entry list of Henry Walkenhorst, Friedrich von Bohlen, Jörg Brewer, and Andreas Ziegler.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell that obviously Henry Walkenhorst, the Monday guy, the owner of the team. This is definitely a Pro-Am lineup, but very, very cool livery. It's sort of, and the 101 has sort of a similar, I want to say almost the same livery. I want to say it's the same livery, but it's just the 101s. Watching the race, you might get confused on with whose car is whose. But you have Christian Krognes, David Pittard, Ben Tuck, and Jörg Mueller in the 101. Now Ben Tuck, I want to say won DTM trophy last year, or was very up front. I believe he was in the BMW GT4, so he's kind of graduating up to GT3 racing. David Pittard and Christian Krognes, very familiar driving pairing from previous years at the Nurburgring 24. Then obviously Jörg Mueller, who has been with pretty much anything with a BMW in the past couple years.
Yeah, for the Walkenhorst liveries, they do have the mirrors are like red and blue accented, and then the end plate for the rear wing also has that accent red or blue for them. Interesting to note too that a lot of the BMW M6s that aren't Row were using like faux pas light housings for the fog lights, which I always find hilarious. So the shots that they have of them are like these fake looking headlights that are on the bottom there. So those should be swapped away. But yeah, that would be the telltale for you is either on the side mirrors, the end plate on the rear wing, or even on the grille, you'll see the red or blue accent on it. So that'll kind of denote it outside the obvious number change. But looking on the side door panel of the driver lineup for 101, definitely an upgrade from the 100. That Walkenhorst Motorsport BMW M6 GT3 driver lineup consists of Christian Krognes, David Pittard, Ben Tuck, and Jörg Mueller doing double duty as well.
Next up, we'll have the number 102, another SP9. Vulcan Motorsports. This would end their trio of GT3 cars, at least in this section of the entry list. It's another BMW M6 GT3 with Jörg Mueller, Mario von Bohlen, Sami Matti Trogan, and Jacob Kuba Giermaziak.
Yeah, and one thing to note with the Walkenhorst stable as well, you could see with their tires, they're running Yokohamas and not Michelin's or Falcons or even Goodyears. So another kind of a tire differentiation from even the BMWs with Row Racing's Michelin sticker tires that they're using on the 98. So could be good, could be bad. Probably not going to have as much pace as you would find from the Michelin runners anyway. But yeah, good BMW lineup from Walkenhorst, and showing up with 3 car for GT3 is not bad either. After 102, we're going to skip to 105 on the entry list. SP4 is the category. Racework Motorsports, UG, driving a BMW 325i E90. We got a 4-driver lineup of Christian Schott, Georg Schoffelder, Sergey Van Voren, or Jan Joren, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and then Hans Joachim Legerman.
Yeah, so the SP4 basically means sports production, and the number just basically, I believe, it goes up to like 1,000 cubic meters or some. It deals with engine displacement. So SP stands for sports production, and then obviously it has a T after the number, like SP4T. It's a turbo. So basically, keep things simple. It's basically where they are in the class structures based on their engine displacement for their sports production part of the class system. Next up, we'll have the AT, which AT is, I believe, the alternative fuels class. You have Ralph Kaba and Oliver Sprungman in the Ford Mustang GT. Both AT cars, American muscle.
Heck yeah. And this looks like almost like a GT4-ish car that's just been outfitted with a non-spec wing and whatnot. It's a weird kind of dichotomy, especially with the alternative fuels, potentially with that too. So, and it's an interesting livery as well with that Mustang. So, go forward, I guess. Go American Muscle. We'll see how that does in the AT category. Up next, 110 numbering in the Cup X category, the KTM Expo GT4 by Teichmann Racing. Daniel Bohr, Timo Molig, Felix van der Leyden, and Dirk Adorf driving that car.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed with Cup X that they put like the GTX and the GT4 in the same class, and the GTX more in line with the GT2. So it's going to be interesting to see how the two different type of cars race with each other. I believe the GT4s might be faster, or at least more reliable, because after looking at the qualifying race results, I believe the GT4 was the first one to come out of all the KTMs. So we'll have to see how the pace is on race weekend for the KTMs and see how that low mini class kerfuffle gets resolved. Next up, you'll have the number 111 Teichmann Racing. Like I said, Teichmann Racing basically funds this class. You have George Greisman, Malik Ranfarth, Vies Volta, and then KTM Expo GT4. A very cool livery, little pink, little green lines, and it's very, very interesting. You'll most likely see it on the TV cameras, but if you don't see it on the TV cameras, the 24 Hours Nurburgring entry list has a page where you can see at least most of the pictures of the cars. Very, very interesting livery. Next up, you got another Teichmann Racing car with the 112. You have Dennis Tribbing, Konstantin Scholl, Andy Suchek, and Peter Turting.
Wow. Andy Suchek, what are you doing in there, bud? That's yeah, that's interesting to see him in there.
I don't know. I would assume he would have his Nurburgring license, but I don't know. Maybe he's doing a favor for everybody, or he's trying to get his Nurburgring license, because obviously we did have one NLS race canceled, so that might have put a wrench in his plans for driving a GT3 this year. As far as I'm aware, that would be my only reasonable guess on why he would be in a lower class car in this. So we'll see. We'll see. Andy Suchek obviously going to be the main guy in that team. So we'll see. Number 112 compared to notable drivers, it's definitely the favorite for the class so far. Then you have the number 114 True Racing car, KTM Crossbow GTX. You have Reinhard Kofler,
by the way, not Teichmann Racing.
Yeah, Johannes Stuck and Ferdinand Stuck.
Any relation
I don't know
to?
If there's relation to.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
This one we're taking guesses. Sons of Hans Joachim Stuck. Okay, all right. Well, that could. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Then you have the number 115 Cup X KTM Crossbow GTX with Mick Chip / DKR GmbH with if it has a GmbH at the end of it, it's like I guess it's like a business trademark or trademark of some sort. I want to say.
Yeah.
You have Dieter Schmidtman, Heiko Hamel, Christoph Brewer, and Tim Heinemann.
For SP3 category coming up next on the number 118 in the Dacia Logan. Dacia. No team name here, but it's Oliver Kreis, Michael Lackmeyer, Doom, and Mikhail Sharodin. Great news, everyone. Obviously, the Dacia Sandero is in here.
Yeah, we're getting part of the entry list, and obviously with less GT3s, we're going to move past these cars a lot quicker. But yeah, Doom, probably used by a person who probably doesn't want his real name out there that he's racing. We'll see. Maybe he doesn't want work finding out they took 4 days off so he can just go racing. But interesting enough, Mikhail Sharudin, he is actually a YouTuber. He has his own YouTube channel. He's doing quite well. He did a lot of RCN races, which is basically kind of like it's like a time trial thing where you have all the cars start, but it's based on fastest time. In terms of instead of an actual race where whoever finishes first gets first, and they just race on the Nurburgring. They don't use the Grand Prix circuit at all. So he's definitely been around this place before. I believe he might have won a race or two in the RCN Challenge, but this is definitely a feel-good story and probably one of the best pre-race coverage of the weekend. Follow Mikhail Shrud on YouTube. He'll probably have a bunch of videos.
Awesome. 119 number coming up in the SP3T category. Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand and the Toyota Corolla Altis, excuse me. Sutipong Smideracht Tarsh. Natvudi Karasinkua Hawatana. Manat Kulapanlanot and Natpong Hortungkum. That is so tough. What the hell?
I'll relieve you for the next one. Number 120 SP3 Toyota Corolla Altis for Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand. Grant Supafons, Chen Zhanhong, and Naoki Kawamura. I feel like I got the easier round of that one. I just let you suffer.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Well, here, I'll take over this one. This should be just slightly easier. Number 121 in the SP3 category. This time in a Toyota GT86 Cup. It's the Pit Lane AMC. AMC Stonks, not related. Sankt Vieth. And it's piloted by Kurt Dujardin Brody. Probably another alias. Jax Deren and Olivier Mutjens.
And this one has a pretty fun livery to it as well. It normally has, I believe, a yellow base and colorful stars all over the car. So you'll definitely see it when race time comes, unless it crashes during qualifying, which that would be a shame. Next up, it's the big one.
Yep. What we've all been waiting for.
SP3.
Yep.
Number 125. Team name is, I believe, Kissling Motorsport runs the car, but the team name on the entry list is called Olaf Beckman because he's the owner of the car. Owner of what car? It's the Opel Mana.
The foxtail lives once more. It's that or the Dacia Logan that I'm going to be just so interested to watch the entire race to see what happens.
And they're in the same class.
Yep. It's gonna be a titanic battle between them two.
Like I said, SP3 and SP3T, they're like the fun classes.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, if you've never seen the Opel Manta, please just even search that, and you'll get quite a bit of fandom that comes your way from Google. Just typing that in, it'll just straight up direct you to Nurburgring, and you can find out all the information you want to on the Foxtail Opel Manta. It's a fantastic little wrinkle of the Nurburgring 24. A huge fan favorite, so definitely a huge fan of it. Next up is go ahead.
Well, the drivers we have here. I think
yes.
we forgot to mention the drivers.
Yep.
Olaf Beckman, obviously the owner of the car. Actually, I believe in February there was an article saying they weren't even considering, or they were considering skipping the race, but gladly they did not. Nice to see the car back on track. Peter Haas, Volker Strejček, which I believe someone mentioned that he's a 1984 DTM champion, proper old school racer he is. And then you have Jürgen Schulten.
And number 131 coming up on the entry list, V6 category, is a Porsche Cayman S981 by Adrenaline Motorsport Team Alzner Automotive, driven by Lutz Ruhl, Christian Bulsbach, and Guido Heinrich.
That's not a German name.
No, couldn't be. Could not be at all. Could be farther from the truth there. Yeah, he's definitely got some Irish in him.
Yeah. I don't know. Jersey Shore meets N24. When's that show coming on TV? Well, going off let's round up this trio of V6 pairings we have. Trio of pairing, whatever. V6 132 Team Mathel Racing. It's the Porsche Cayman S with Sebastian Schaefer and Jörg Kittelman, and then you have the 133 so the team name is called Oliver Schumacher, which if it's a name, which I would assume he would be the car owner. So then you have Xavier Lemadrid Sr., Massimiliano Dorado, and Nicolas Abril as your drivers in that Porsche 981.
In the V5 categories, not V6, V5 now, the number 141 Adrenaline Motorsport Team Altsner Automotive, Porsche Cayman 981, Ulrich Korn, Tobias Korn, Daniel Korn, and Herbert von Danwitz are the 4 drivers piloting that car.
Yeah, and during the qualifying race, they had a graphic, I believe, for that car, and they didn't have the first name. It just said Korn, which is very, very hilarious. Yes, it's spelled like that corn. It's spelled like freak on the leash corn. Then you have next up with the 142 V5 class Porsche Cayman. Rent to drive Familia Racing. You have Holger Gachot, Sophia Gachot. It might be Gachot, but I'm not the best with foreign languages. Philip Ade and Mike Schmidt.
And next in the category, we've got V4 and the number 151 entry on this entry list, the BMW E90 325. No team name, but the 4 drivers in this lineup are Florian Quante, Jürgen Huber, Oliver Fries, and Simon Segmeister.
Next up in the V4 class, you have another BMW. Well, actually, no, it's a different BMW. It's instead of a BMW E90 325, it's a BMW E90 325i. It's number 152, Team McChip / our dash DKR. Lucas Lang, Sasha Lott, and Alexander Meixner. The next up, we'll finish up this V4 class structure we have in the entry list. Thomas Muskins is the owner of the race car with a BMW 325i in the number 153. Richard Gressick, Philip Gressick, Werner Gussenbauer, and Moritz Gussenbauer. 2 families pretty much running that car that weekend. Hopefully they don't fight. Might be like every single marriage.
Exactly, and the winking smiley face really will help propel that car forward on their livery. So, look at that. 159 coming up in the V2T category. FK Performance GBR. It's a BMW 330i, driven by Christian Kohlerth, Ranko Matsovic, and Moritz Oberheim. Yeah,
we're getting to a pretty big chunk of the entry list for the V2T class, at least more than 3. Like we've been seeing with the other classes, with number 160, BMW F30 330i, Manheller Racing OHG with Kurt Strube and Yukata Seki. We're never really see a Japanese driver this low into the entry list, but it's very welcoming to see. Next up, you have the 162, Opel Astra OPC. With Michael Eichhorn, Herbie Schmidt, Lars Fruding, and Tim Roberts. Then you have 163 and the number 164. Same car, same team. It's Avia Sorg Reinsport. Very familiar names here at the ring. Number 163, you have Rasmus Helmick, Alberto Carubio, Ugo Vicenci. And number 164, you have Born Simon, Heiko Eichenberg, Stefan Epp, and Philip Scherte.
Nice. And number 165 coming up next on the entry list, SP2T category. It's the Hyundai i20N, Hyundai Motorsport N, servicing this car, driven by Kai Jordan, Marcus Lundstrass, Mark Everett, and Guido Naumann. I like this. It's a nice little hatchback looking car, especially in the SP2T category.
Continuing on with a couple more V2Ts, both by the same team. Number 166, Giddy Tire Motorsport by WS. You're a VW guy. What's that spell in Roman numerals?
7. It's 7, sir.
It's okay. So it's a VW Golf V7 AU. So that's gold in the periodic table.
Yep.
Axel Jan for Seki's Sven, Wayne Moore, and Niels Borum. Then you have the 167 in the BMW F30, which that grill looks pretty big. And it's not even the M4. Nope. A very interesting car though. I kind of like it. No wing, I've noticed on the back of that car. It's hatchback. So Tobias Wolf, Nicholas Krei, Nikolai Kanborg, and Fabian Volvend will take pilot of that car.
The 168 Team Mathol Racing. This is a Porsche 718 Cayman S. It's in the V3T category, piloted by Weber Wolfgang and Alexander Fielenbach. And 169 is the V2T category. Going back to that, another Giddy Tire Motorsport by WS Racing entry. This time it's a BMW F30. James Brakel, David Drinkwater, Ulrich Schmidt, and NNN is piloting. So another little alias there in the V2T category.
Yeah, the one driver I recognize is David Drinkwater. He's been here many times before. I believe I've seen his name ever since we've done the Entry List podcast here with you, Cookie. So he's definitely knows this place. At least he should.
Oh yeah,
at least he should. Yeah, all these years driving here, so he should be a very good pair of hands for that BMW. We're getting to the TCR cars, and they make it easier for us to identify if this is the actual TCR class with TCR specs and regs, because they just call it TCR. First one's number 170, Come To You Racing, Audi RS3 LMS TCR with Tom Cornell and Nicholas Barrett. I would assume this would be the one with DHL sponsorship because of Tom Cornell in the car, and that's a sponsor for WTCR. And when he does TCR Europe, they sponsor him for that too. Next up, you have Bonk Motorsport with a very colorful Cupra Leon competition car. You have Herman Bonk and Max Partle.
Yeah, Herman Bonk is, especially for the Bonk Motorsport. I was like, Bonk and Bonk. Okay, gotcha. But I actually like the livery too with the, and then the Leon as well. Number 172 in the TCR category is Autohaus M. Fugel. Honda Civic TCR is the car, and driven by Dominic Fugel, Tiago Monteiro, Cedric Tots, and Nestor Girolami. Girolami, I think.
Yeah, this is going to be the one that's going to be decorated in Castrol colors, and very, very much a fan favorite. Probably my most favorite TCR car that's ever been ran. I just like the paint scheme that much, and obviously Dominic Fugel races in ADAC TCR Germany. Tiago Montero, former Formula 1 driver. Cedric Tots, not sure what he does, but Nestor Girolami, former, maybe even current WTCR driver as well. So lots of experience in this little TCR car. This is definitely going to be my pick for the TCR class. But it's a Honda, and Honda don't normally really do well in 24-hour races, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yep.
Next up, we got 173 Matilda Racing Cupra Leon TCR. This is the older style Seat Leon Cupra. Michael Patz, Jürgen Nett, Joachim Nett, and Michael Ascona.
Now, this car was rebuilt, I believe, after the first lap crash that involved the Hyundai Elantra. That was also that opening lap crash that happened, I believe, a few weeks ago in that qualifying race. Controversy, I believe the Hyundai Elantra driver was ejected from the team pretty much after that happened. But this was one of the offending cars that was having a pretty dicey wheel-to-wheel race all the way up until the backstretch pretty much, and had a few contacts worthy enough to send it and the Elantra into the wall, and that was one where we didn't really see too much video of it unless the onboard of the car behind it gave us a good look at that. But yeah, this was one of the cars that was in that wreck. So the number two, go ahead.
And let me add one more notice on that team. Michael Ascona, 2018 TCR Europe champion and currently the points leader for the 2021 TCR Europe Championship, with winning a race or two in that championship as well. So he's on a hot streak with TCRs. We'll see if that translates to 24 hours around the green hell.
And coming up next, number 230. This is in the BMW M2 240i category, so I wonder what they're racing. If that's the category name, is the Avia Sorg Rennsport team stable, piloted by Luis Ramirez, Christopher Allen, Harold Rettich, and Fabrice Reicher.
Then you get the number 231, same class but different car, BMW M24i Racing. Adrenaline Motorsport Team, Alsner Automotive. Lots of splitting of the classes this team is doing. I believe they also have a Porsche Cayman, one of the V classes, which is basically production stock. As simple as it gets. Charles Oakes and David Bertello will be the pilots of that machine.
Now we switch gears to Cup 5 category. These are basically a bunch of BMW M2s in the CS Racing configuration. First up is number 236, MSC Walscheid Racing here. Klaus Fassbender, Sven Marquette, Lars Harbeck, and Christoph Hewer, excuse me.
Yeah, and these guys, the Cup 5 classes, as we're talking about, they're really fun to watch. You'll definitely see it, definitely in NLS races, hopefully in Nurburgring 24, as a lot of them definitely during the start of the race. They're pretty much even with each other. And as soon as they come down dotting or hoe, it's like a NASCAR race at Talladega. The drafting that comes into play is absolutely astonishing as they play chicken when they go into that left-hander at the end of the straight. And it's just fun racing when they focus on it. I guarantee you this will probably be one of the most competitive classes that we will have at this race. Next up, we have the number 238 Hofer Racing by Bonk Motorsport. Rainier Partle and Jürgen Meyer will be in that car. Very, very interesting livery. It sort of looks like the runoff at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, a little bit. It's that BMW artwork at play again here. I do like the sides. It almost has that Mark Martin Valvoline NASCAR
yes
to that too on the sides, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting liveries. And once again, we're not exactly great picture to text explainers. The pictures of the cars will be on the entry list website, which will be 24H-Renan-DE.
That's your stereotypical BMW art car looking kind of thing. So that's for sure. We'll try to keep it simple.
And obviously you'll see them. And obviously you'll see them at the track when you're watching the streams for the track action. Next up, number 240, Adrenaline Motorsport Team, Elsner Automotive, David Greisner, Guido Wirtz, Tobias Vasquez. Number 241, same team name, Marcus Flash, Matthias Malmidi, Jörg Weidinger, and Nicholas Schell. 242, same team name. They're coming in hot with 3 cars in this class with the Adrenaline Motorsport Team, Elsner Automotive. Yannick Frubrick, Francesco Merlini, and Marcel Fugel. Then we finally go on to a different class, which would be Cup 3, which would be the number 301, Epps Rheinsport. Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 CS with Mark Wallenwein, Henning Duister, and Christian Rosen.
And following up with your Cup 3 301, it's the 302 W&S Motorsport GmbH. Porsche Cayman 718. It's a GT4 car as well. This is piloted by Jürgen Vollringer, Walter Schweikart, and Daniel Blickel.
And while we're here, Cup 3, that's going to be your Porsche Cayman class. So anything with a Cup and anything after that, it's most likely going to be a single make class. Like we have Cup X for the KTM's crossbow. Cup 3 is going to be your Porsche Cayman and the different variations within that car. Next up, you'll have number 303 Kramer Racing with Carsten Kramer, Alexei Veremenko, Stefan Hober, and Christopher Brook. Same team name, but with the 304. You'll have the driver lineup as Yevgen Sokolovsky. Then you have Afshin Dr. Fatemi, so he must be one of the multiple dentists there in the field. Hennen Kramer and Jean-Francois Bruno.
Next up, number 305, still in the Cup 3 category, Porsche Cayman GT4 GTEC competition, piloted by Patrick Gruter, Fabio Gross, Max Cronenberg, Ben Bunagel. Number 306, Cup 3 GTEC competition, same stable. This time the driver lineup of Jan-Jaap van Roon and Maximilian Kurtz. Team Mathal Racing, I should say. Cup 3 category still remaining here with this Cayman GT4 in the number 307 entry. Is piloted by Rudiger Scheidt, Montana Kesselbomer. But I think it's Rudiger Scheidt. That's it.
Oh, be careful, Cookie.
Yeah, I was close. I was flirting with disaster there for a bit. Number 308, still staying in Cup 3 category, Black Falcon Team Techstar. Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. This is got some Russians in it. Alexander Akamenkov, I can say that. Iceman, of course, it's not Kimi Räikkönen. Vasily Silyanov, that's it. Again, I can say English, or Russian, I guess. And Tobias Wall, rounding up that driver lineup.
And we'll finish up the last three Cup 3 cars we have on this portion of the entry list. We have Milner Motorsport. We've seen them before. So they ran a prototype challenge. So there's some North American resemblance here for if you're an American. They race here in the States. So there's a team they may recognize in one of the lower classes. So if you want to follow along, because that's one of the big parts of an endurance race. It's fun to just pick a lower class car, follow them along with timing. It makes the experience much more. You're more invested. You're more likely to watch more of the race. Tangent aside, you have the 309 Mueller Motorsport with Thorsten Young and Oscar Sandberg. Same stable with the 310, you have Marcel Hopp and Michael Rebon. Then for the 311, rounding up this portion of the Cup 3 class, at the FTK Motorsport with Jens Modofend, Nico Addo, Thorsten Volter, and Nick Vostenhage.
Changing up categories, we're switching to AT now with a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, number 320, Ford Motorsports Bio Concept car, so this has got that alternate fuels, driven by Thomas von Luis of Menard, and Michael B. Schmidt.
Yeah, AT class is one of the most wild classes out there because you got a Porsche Cup car, a Ford Mustang, and a Dodge Viper. So that's going to be interesting to see how it plays. Basically, the AT classes, who's reliable, who doesn't break down. So we'll see how that goes. SP4 class, we have MRC Race World with the BMW 325i E90. You have Karsten Muir, Volker Schachmann, and Klaus Mueller.
The number 330 is one of two BMW 330i G20s in the V2T category from Adrenaline Motorsport Team Altzer Automotive. 330 being piloted by Philipp Stahlschmidt, Christopher Rink, Danny Brink, and Daniel Ziltz.
And I think either one of them, Christopher Rink or Danny Brink, I want to say they were VLN overall champions in a BMW. I can't remember which class, probably Cup 5. But I do want to say they were overall champions, or at least I think they're overall champions at the ring before. So definitely a very good driver lineup.
Yep, absolutely. The number 331 is the other Adrenaline Motorsport Team Altzer Automotive BMW 330i. This one is driven by Ilbacher Jacob and Marvin Kobus. The 333 entry is SP3T category. Max Cruz Racing. That's in a Golf GTI TCR. Love that. Love to see that. Frederick Yurley, Matthias Vesel, Jasmine Presig, and Gustavo Xavier are piloting that entry. And Chris, we've got a SP Pro coming up here.
Yeah, it's basically another take on the engine displacement, because it says here SP Pro over 3,000 cc. Nothing says anything with specifications for a different or specific regulation of car. So just as over 3,000 cc. That's basically what it is. It's a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup MR, which, if what I'm thinking, it might be an MR means Manti Racing. So it might just mean that it's built to look like a current or last generation Porsche GT3, because they like to do that here. They just take a Porsche Cup car and make it look like a current gen GT3. It's Black Falcon Team Identica. It's Noah Nagelsdick, Florian Naumann, Carlos Rivas, and Hendrik von Danwitz.
Yeah, that should be an interesting car to see how that does. And I think you're right. I think it is just it's a GT4 and almost like GT Cup in GT3 clothing essentially. So we'll see how that does. Two AT entries here coming up in the number 420 and 421 entries, both by Ford Motors Bio Concept car. Both of them are a Cayman. One is the number 420 is a 982 GT4, whereas the 421 is 981 GT4. The 420 is piloted by Matthias Beck-Vermert and Henrik Bolsev. And the number 421 is piloted by Marco Timbal and Bravetti Nicola.
Then you have the another car that's a fan favorite, comes here every year. Very, very notable name in the sports car racing world now. It's number 704 in the SPX class, Glickenhaus Racing. This year they're going with the Michelins compared with, I believe they ran with Goodyears last year. You have Thomas Much, Felipe Fernandez Laser, Frank Meliu, and Richard Westbrook.
Yep. Doing some extra stints in this car for their Nurburgring 24. This had a pretty serious off in one of the support races a month or two ago, and we're just taking it easy in the qualifying race, so didn't really see a full amount of pace from this. But I don't expect this car to finish top 10 overall. I do think it'll mix it up with the Pro-Ams. We'll see. It's a great looking car. They have had a couple of years experience now with this, with running this, but I think just for the key to anything right now will just be just track time and more entries, just more Glickenhauses, more SCG 004s. But just with one entry, I'm thinking either like a top 10, top 15 might be slightly, shooting high, maybe potentially with this. We'll see.
Then you have another SP4T class car. We have no team name, but it's the Porsche 718 GTS. You have Ralph Zenzen, Fabian Peitzmeier, Christian Danisberg, and Michael Kuke. I'm pretty sure how we pronounce it. Then you have two TCR cars, both by Hyundai Motorsport N. You have the number 830 with the Honda Elantra N with Mark Basling, Manuel Locke, and Moritz Eistrich. Yeah, and then you have the 831 with Luca Engsler and Hendrik Still and Jean-Carl Vernet. And obviously the 831 is going to be the stronger of the two lineups here.
Yep. The 830 also had Peter Turding, and he was the guy that was terminated by Hyundai after that TCR crash that happened about a month ago now. So that would have had a potentially different lineup as well, and that was the other car that was involved in that first lap crash. The Cup, we'll do Cup 5 as the second to last car, because we all know which car always remains last on these entry lists for the Nurburgring 24. It's the number 890 Schubert Motorsport BMW M2 CS Racing chassis entry, and driven by Tortzen Schubert, Michael van Zabinski, Marcel Lanaers, and Christopher Dryspring.
Yep, doing double duty team with that team. They have a GT3 car that they're doing, also doing Cup 5. Then with the 911, Porsche 911 GT3R, it's Grello, it's Manti Racing with Matteo Caroli, Michael Christensen, Kevin Estra, and Lars Kern. Obviously, Lars Kern holding, I believe, the Nürburgring production car lap record. Kevin Estra, very quick driver. And Michael Christensen, longtime Porsche factory driver, races with Porsche in WEC, or at least used to. Following the current WEC driver lineups as I should. Then you have Matteo Caroli, who's just wicked quick.
Yeah, this is going to be competing directly with Falcon. It's not Falcon. Well, it would definitely be competing with Falcon tires, but Fricadelli Racing Team is going to have their hands full with Manti, who are known to really do well here for some reason. And this driver lineup is fantastic as well. So this should do very nicely. I'd say top 5, top 10 easy, unless they run into trouble with that car. And it's good to see Grello back as always. That's such a fantastic livery.
I'm gonna say for our people that listen to Do Fantasy WBC, this is gonna be the honeypot pick. I do think that this is gonna be the honeypot pick because people, look at Grello. They know the history that it has here. They know Manti wins races here. So I think everybody's going to choose that, or at least the majority. And then I think it's going to have an issue. I don't think it's going to do as well as people say it's going to do.
Okay. I mean, it's got enough competition for even if they don't have the perfect amount of pace, they can absolutely get their doors blown off them too. Especially from what people are saying. I mean, even some of the heads of some of the OEMs have been really hamming it up in terms of what they feel the pace is going to look like from a lot of the SP9 category field. Just kind of where the top 30 qualifying was just so close. Especially through some of these support races in the qualifying race. It was really close, especially leading down into the end of the race. I mean, there wasn't a battle for the lead specifically, but it was like fourth or fifth on back through 11th to 12th. It was just so close, and basically into pack racing still. It should be really interesting to see how it shakes out, or who just gets in sync well with the conditions and with the track itself this weekend.
And that wraps up the entry list here. That's 125 cars that we just went through. And a little update, we just found out that those Stuck drivers, they are in fact related to Hans Joachim Stuck. So some history in that car. Imagine having those shoes to fill that your father won the inaugural 24-hour race, and you can't exactly beat that.
Imagine the amount of tips that they're getting, like just little nuggets of info here or there, and just enough to make your head spin a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, so Kris, how are we watching this? Or we're tuning in this year, or because clearly not everybody is going to be allowed to attend this race, not like some of us could. But for the vast majority of people who are going to be watching this, where can they go? What can they do?
Yeah, so depending on whenever this podcast gets out, hopefully before race time, Thursday, we'll have 2 qualifying sessions, one during the day and one during the night, weather permitting. It's supposed to get, last time I checked, pretty bad, so we'll have to check the schedule updates on that one. This should be on the ADAC 24-hour YouTube channel as well as the Nurburgring YouTube channel. They'll go with pretty much every single session come race time. I'll explain later. Then you have another qualifying session on the Friday morning. I think even before that, you'll have a 3-hour classic car race. We'll have a bunch of vintage cars rolling around the ring for about 3 hours. Then also on that Friday, you'll have a Tourenwagen Legends race, which will only race on the Grand Prix Strecke. Which I believe it's like your old DTM cars, and they might even have an M1 Pro car, which that would be pretty cool to see. Then obviously Friday, the main event will be the top 30 qualifying, where they have a top 30 cars have a shootout, 2 laps around Nurburgring to see who will get pole. And then you'll have on Saturday morning, you'll have your FIA World Touring Car Cup races, WTCR. Those will be on Eurosport. Hope Motor Trend might have a live stream for us Americans. And then you have your warm-up, another Tourenwagen Legends race, which, apart from the WTCR races, they will all be on YouTube free. And then, of course, you have race time, which, unfortunately, apparently the YouTube streams are geo-blocked. You'll have to most likely use Motor Trend on demand, which is unfortunate, but it's about $5 a month, but you can get around it using a free trial. Remember to cancel once the race is done. Very unfortunate, because I was going to use the German stream, because the German stream has the pit reporters, and they usually do a lot of funny antics. So it's either watch on Motor Trend on my big screen TV, or use the VPN and just watch on my computer. And the computer, just watching on the big screen, it's preferred. So I'll have to leave it up to the Germans that are watching to clip me the funny moments. But that's how you can watch the 24 Hours of Nurburgring. Obviously, live timing will be on the official website, as well as the live ticker. In the live ticker, you'll have to use Google Translate, because it's all in German, but it provides important updates in the race, especially during the night. It can tell you who crashed, where, and if a car is retired or not. So definitely keep a couple of screens open for all the fun and the information that comes your way, and just the streaming of the Nurburgring 24.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Obviously, we've also got other stuff going on coming up here and later this month as well. This weekend, too, we've got the 4 hours of La Castellet with the ELMS race. The next weekend after Nurburgring 24, we've got the 8 hours of Portimao for WC as well. So endurance racing is just alive and well, especially in June, even though we're missing that 24 hours of Le Mans right in the middle of it. But we'll get to that later this year. Wanted to also
potentially,
yeah.
I would say potentially, if there's a red flag situation, you still have other fun stuff going on as well. There's Formula 1, Formula 2 at Baku, ARCA, main ARCA, and NASCAR Xfinity at Mid-Ohio, and then you have ARCA West and NASCAR Cup at Sonoma.
Lots of road course racing.
Then you have lots of road course racing. Not really no ovals this weekend. Then I got MotoGP at Barcelona. So lots and lots of racing. I'm definitely keeping an extra screens handy. So depending on if the Nurburgring 24-hour race is slow, there's definitely other races to tune in.
Awesome. And last but not least, just with helping our entry list and also what I'll be using throughout the race too to keep up with the SP9 and SPX categories, we've got an unofficial 2021 SP9 and SPX Nurburgring 24-hour spotter guide. A little bit of sponsored by RWC from the user Ziambel_444. He also got some help from Danny TR1 putting together a very commendable and respectable Andy Blackmore Guides-esque spotter guide that really goes through in good detail what the cars look like, driver lineups, and noting different style factors. So if you're trying to figure out which car is which or a little bit more information about the car you're looking at, definitely check that out. It's an actual easy install. Going to just using the link tiny.cc/spotters guide to download it. It's a nice PDF. He keeps that thing updated. So want to give a shout out to that. Thank you for that, Ziambel. Outside of that, that's it. We've got a lot of racing to look forward to this weekend, next weekend. We'll be having stuff in the community Discord channel, especially for Le Mans, since that's not happening. But outside of that, it's a great spot to be, especially for a 24-hour race, and the Nurburgring 24 doesn't get any better than that. Wish we could see more fans in the stands and just around the track, but that'll be for next year. I'm glad that this is in a more normal state, and we're kind of finally picking up and getting past a little bit some of the pandemic stuff that really affected us last 24 months. I would say almost 24 months. 12 months at least. 16 months. God, it's getting late here. But beyond that, it's been a pleasure to have you, Chris. Thank you guys so much for listening through this slog, and have a great rest of your day, guys. I guess there's really no Toyota Gazoo racing here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Toyota Gazoo!
Don't forget the sponsor plug.
Oh, crap. Well...